So here we are again. We are relying on yet again another weekly close bailout. Otherwise, we risk breaking structure on Bitcoin and highly likely having a bear market around the corner. The line in the sand for me, as I've said many times, is the Gaussian channel or the 50-week moving average. Both of them are around the same price. A weekly close below that level for me would give an extremely high chance of a macro crypto bear market and a more prolonged, sustained move to the downside, which could last anywhere between 6 to 12 months. In today's video, we're going to discuss the chances of a turnaround and a bailout yet again versus the chances of us potentially going straight into a bear market here and this whole bull run being a huge disappointment for a lot of people. If that sounds interesting, please make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well if you're new. Even on the red days, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be providing you with the relevant data and information to navigate crypto. There's also a massive promo available right now. If you use my Blowfin link down below, you can potentially get up to $10,000 in bonuses if you use that link and you follow the rules. It's potentially huge money and it's for free. You just have to trade on Blowfin. That's all you need to do. So you can see on my screen right here, we have Bitcoin's price action over the course of the last year. And by the way, Bitcoin year to date, it's only up something like 7%, something like 6%. It's been a very disappointing year when you think about it, considering the expectations people had for 2025. However, you can see we have this yellow line. That is your 50-week moving average. We can also overlay the Gaussian channel. They're around about the same price, though there is a little bit of a degree of separation here between these two levels. The 50-week moving average, I would say, is closer to 103K, whereas the Gaussian channel is more towards 104K. So I'm going to say that a weekly close below 103K gives a very, very high percentage probability of a crypto bear market. And, people shouldn't underestimate what happens during a crypto bear market. You could see last cycle, the point in which we lost the 50-week moving average on a weekly close was the beginning of the end for Bitcoin. And the following year was pretty much down only. 2022 was a very bleak year. And we bottomed out at 15K. You would have had the chance to sell in the high 40s, 47, 48, something like that, with the confirmation of it ending, and then open a short position and then rebuy potentially back maybe 15K. Let's be realistic. Most people didn't buy the bottom. I bought the bottom on this channel. I told you guys I was buying at 15K. But let's just say you waited until we got above the 50 week again. You would have rebought back in around 25K, something like that. So the point is, in my opinion, from a probability perspective, it is not worth holding all the way into a bear market when you can sell and rebuy back in much lower. And the altcoins are going to bleed out much more than Bitcoin. That's why I'm focusing on Bitcoin right now, because whatever Bitcoin does, the altcoins are just going to amplify at this point in time. So we really need another bailout on the weekly close, and we can't keep doing this. I don't know how many times I need to say it. We can't keep having a situation where we dump in the middle of the week, and then by the end of the week, we're all relying on a last minute survival close by the whales and by the market makers. Eventually, it's not going to work. So I am growing in my concerns here, but I remain of the belief that we are still in a bull run until we get a weekly close below the 50-week moving average. And therefore, I remain bullish until we get the close below the 50-week moving average. There is no point going against the trend. There is no point trying to be, super speculative as to what will happen on the weekly close. Just be reactive. That's kind of what I'm planning to do. If that means, there's a few percentage points difference in your P&L, then so be it. I would rather personally wait for that confirmation. We've seen many times before, we've come down to the 50-week and people thought it was over. People thought it was the end. And then somehow we were, there was a catalyst, something came out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden we're skyrocketing again. We had the same thing happen back in April. So I am personally still of the belief that until we get a close below, there is no point in selling. Now, if you want to sell because you're at a position where you can't afford to lose any more money, then that's on you. But for me personally, I'm sticking to the levels that I've had this entire cycle, and I'm not deviating away from it. Now, when we look at the fear and greed index, we are currently sitting in extreme fear. So, you would look at that and think we can't have much more of an instant dump from here. Maybe we're going to get some sort of short term rally, whether that will be to a lower high or a new high. That's the $1 million question. I would say the probabilities right now are in the direction of the rally being to a lower high as opposed to a higher high. And I've said on this channel multiple times that I believe the Bitcoin top was in at 126K. I called it on the day in my VIP group, and the day after I came onto YouTube and told you guys that I believe that was the top. The only thing that I got wrong was that I didn't expect Bitcoin to dump this much. I thought Bitcoin would maybe, just balance out, just kind of go sideways, and the alts would see some sort of momentum. That has not happened. In fact, everything's pretty much just gone straight down. Whereas I thought we'd see some sort of just leveling out, some sort of rounding top on Bitcoin. And during that period, we'd see some altcoin momentum. It just didn't happen. So I think part of the reason why we are seeing such a bad moment for the crypto market is because you've got all the attention with the stock market right now, all the attention with gold. So alternative assets are getting a lot more momentum, a lot more hype. And then with all of that happening, Bitcoin and crypto is just doing nothing. So it's really not looking great as someone from the outside looking into crypto when everything else is rallying and crypto is just doing nothing. Another reason I would say is this December rate cut chance now is drastically decreasing. We are currently looking at around a 50-50 chance of a rate cut in December. That was at one point priced in at 90% chance on Polymarket. So currently, the probabilities of a rate cut in December are completely up in the air. Powell said it himself in the last FOMC that it was far from a foregone conclusion that we get a rate cut in December. And that is currently getting priced in right now. So if we do end up getting a rate cut in December, then I think markets would respond very positively because as of right now, they're almost pricing out a rate cut in December. Now, in terms of the altcoin market, alts are obviously getting destroyed to their Bitcoin pairs right now. And I would expect this to continue until we get some sort of confirmation that Bitcoin isn't going to invalidate here and it's not going to close below the Gaussian channel. We probably need a bounce on Bitcoin to at least kind of 109K or higher in order to give some form of risk on sentiment in the crypto market where people are interested in altcoins. Until that happens, people are going to be very fearful of a potential bear market, and therefore they're going to be preemptively selling their altcoins before we get any confirmation of a bear market. So to summarize, I just want to hit this point home that I am not going to try and be really proactive and preemptive and try and guess or assume what the weekly close is going to be. Rather, I am going to be reactive. I'm going to wait to see what it is. If it is a close below my invalidation point, then I will end up de-risking out of this market and look at potentially getting into some macro short positions. But however, if it is a solid close and we manage to survive again, then it was the right thing holding off just like it was last week. Guys, I appreciate you watching the video. Make sure to check out the VIP group, a link down below. Even during these times, the group is still very active. It's very supportive. And I strongly recommend being in there rather than being a lone wolf because you're going to just understand what's going on a little bit better. You're not going to be as much in your emotions. I know what it's like being a lone wolf, but having a community, having a network around you of professional traders, professional crypto analysts, it's going to be very, very helpful and give you some clarity as to what you should be doing potentially in this market. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Goodbye.